God, why do I suck
What
at
is this,
golf?
like golf tournaments?
What is this, amateur hour?
Dude, says the dude wearing a golf visor.
I like golf. Did we talk about golf too?
Oh, we just
No.
watched, Emily and I just watched a tiger documentary. Pretty good.
Ah, okay.
It's pretty interesting.
Nothing golf.
You do not
I
like
nothing to almost don't like golf.
What about miniature golf?
Yeah, mini golf is fun.
Okay.
Okay, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. It is your boys, KJ, Nathan, and Patrick, coming in hot with another episode.
So hot.
Hello, everyone. Whoa, Nathan.
Oh, I thought we were
Nathan's
hot.
feeling himself over there.
No, I was
All
talking about
right.
you guys. You guys are so hot,
Nathan,
right?
don't be
I know.
gross.
Okay, sorry.
This is
I
not
appreciate
okay.
it.
Creepy.
I appreciate
Anyways,
ignore the
Nathan,
creepy
what
guy.
does Janchi mean for all of our new listeners or old listeners who have forgotten?
Janchi, which, as we said in one of our last episodes, we might be kind of pronouncing it wrong. It's not really like Janchi.
No,
or
okay,
Janchi,
wait,
right?
actually,
Did you
that's-
look it up?
Yeah, we
No,
did
no,
talk
no.
about that.
No, I wanted to say when I was editing, because I missed it when he said it in person, but the way Patrick said it, both ways are correct. The first way was Patrick's enunciation. The second way was just Jerry's pronunciation. So it was just Patrick doing a Jerry Wan impression of
Nice.
Janchi. There's not
Janchi.
like, is it
Janchi.
Because Jerry just said Janchi. Yeah,
But
no,
he
it's
does.
just
But the
Janchi.
inflection on the part of the word is different.
Right.
Like,
No.
ours is on the chi, I feel like, and his is on the John.
No, I think his is just more like terse
Janchi.
and shortened Janchi. Like you really feel his jaw move when he says it. And so Patrick, when you were saying it like Jerry, I was like, oh, there goes his jaw. All right. Anyways,
Good
I
to
wish
know.
we had the camera on for that to see if my jaw did. See my jaw action.
Janchi.
Zoom in on the jaw cam, and
do, we
there
do.
he goes, tightening his jaw
there he is
again.
in super slow mo. All right.
That was fun.
Janchi.
Anyways, Nathan, what does Janchi mean? Or
Janchi. 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 It means festival, celebration, feast. It's a party, and we are here to celebrate and party with our Korean heritage and our stories. So
Party together.
because
That's
we
what I
are
like doing.
adopted.
Ooh,
as
pop
you
quiz.
guys,
What does
you know.
Janchi Heo mean?
Janchi heyo. For the longest time, I thought you were saying hey, like hey o or hey yo.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
Okay.
Is that like fun party?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's to do a party.
Do a
Oh, well, I
party.
like that even better. That's even
Yeah,
So
so
it's
it
more
literally like so I don't think this technically works in Korea, like proper Korean grammar, and I know that I've talked about it on the show, but just as a refresher, adding the verb hada at the end of a noun can make it like
Right.
it's like when we say adulting, you're like to do
Oh.
being the adult. So,
Right.
but like in Korean, that is an actual way to say like the verb to, or noun to verb things. So janchi heyo, like on top of it just being like janchi heyo, is also literally like to party. So
I like
that's what,
it.
like it's a double meaning, It's a little
Wait, it's not
word play.
Janchi. It's not Janchi Hada. It's Janchi Heo.
Well, hada is the
Oh.
unconjugated. So when it's
Gotcha.
conjugated in chondemal for just people, you could say janchi heyo or janchi hamnida or janchi hei, depending on your formalities. But janchi heyo, that's the easiest. Just stick with that.
We
That's
still
why I was
need
bad
to do
at
some
Spanish.
language classes here.
Couldn't do the conjugations.
The conjugations are so much easier in Korean.
are?
Oh, okay.
Because there's past tense, present tense, future tense, and then like it's all the same no matter who you're talking to, basically. And then you have formalities and stuff. But like it's pretty simple. The more difficult part about Korean is the particles and like word endings that change the meaning of a sentence. Guys, this wasn't what we were going to talk about. This wasn't going to be another... We did this the last episode. This
did
isn't
do
going to be
language
another
last time.
language lesson.
But language is so interesting. I mean, come on.
We'll talk about it once Patrick has started his class.
Yes, that's true.
Oh yeah, that'll be a good time to revisit for
Because
sure.
then he'll be like, okay, so what's that thing about the particles? And
It'll
be like,
literally
bro.
just be Korean language study hour. That'll be
Yeah.
the beginning of all of our podcasts. Like, all right, guys, you got to help me.
But hey, so what are we going to talk about? What is this intro?
Yeah. So, anyways, today we're talking about music because our guest is Jordan VanHemert, and we recorded his episode late 2020. So some of the things are like even the election, really. I think that's how early it was, and we've just been sitting on it because we have some things. He has some things that are happening in his life that we want to big him up for. So we've just been like, we're trying to support him in all of his projects. So he is a professional musician. He has a doctorate in wind instruments, I think is what he says,
I think so.
or wind performance. But specifically, he plays saxophone, jazz sax. So yeah, he's a really cool dude. And I wanted to open the conversation about music and stuff because in his episode, spoiler alert, what you're about to hear is part of his process of reclaiming his heritage, reclaiming his Korean culture. And so on Clubhouse a while ago, he played a version of Arirang, that's like the Korean national anthem, but it's like not the Korean national anthem. But that's like, I'm going to say it's like the Korean folks' heart song, like there's something that moves people really deeply. And I personally have never really cared for that song, probably because I didn't grow up with it. And I'm, an American, nothing like a good old My Country 'Tis of Thee, JK. But when he played Arirang on Clubhouse, I was so moved because it was an expression of music that was Korean and adopted. And like that was just such an important confluence of events, confluence of identities, mixed hodgepodge of things. And it meant so much more to me. So yeah, I guess just to broaden it out, again, what was a music moment that you experienced, whether it was live music or a particular single or maybe a full record that dropped that you found was like particularly moving to you, and why?
So for me, I have a lot of musical moments. And this doesn't have to do with like me connecting culturally with anything. It's more just a personal moment and memory for me. But long story short, saw my favorite band, Circus Survive, in Chicago in 2010 in the winter. They had just released their third album, Blue Sky Noise, which is my favorite album. And at the end of the show, they were playing the song I Felt Free. And in this song, there is a part where the instrumentation drops out and the lead singer, Anthony Green, is just singing the refrain. And that part came on in the show, and my best friend and I were watching it, and music and everything drops out, and he doesn't even start singing. It's just the whole crowd singing that part of the song. And I just remember looking at my friend, and I'm just like bawling my eyes out. I'm like, what is happening? It was just such an emotional. I was so connected to everybody in that building. And it's funny because when I think about that feeling, I have inklings of the same feeling when I am in rooms like Clubhouse with a bunch of adoptees, or when I'm engaging with adoptees. It's like it's something I didn't know that I was waiting for or missing or needed, but it's hit me in the same way. So yeah, that's a musical moment for me that stands out a lot. And just thinking about it now, like I'm somehow recapturing that feeling in a different way through this journey.
Well, I mean, I love music. I've listened to all different types of music. I've never called myself a specific. No, I know you're going to say I listen to Chopin all day, all night, right? But that's not true. I listen to a little bit of everything. I listen to country
didn't
music.
happen.
I listen to piano, new age. I listen to
oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Soundtracks. I love soundtracks. And
I like soundtracks
I love
too.
Okay.
Songs that have deep meaning and just like a lot of really good lyrics and emotion, and a lot of people like it, and it just brings you to a really good place, like Gangnam Style.
I was not expecting you to say that.
Sorry. I just set you guys up for that one.
He's like, I hate music.
I like
No, I'm
music.
just kidding.
I personally, I mean, I played piano as a kid, so I do like hearing music. I don't think I've necessarily, had any specific moments that have reminded me that this is why I like music. But as a kid, and as even in my college years, I used to love just listening to instrumental music. So anything that had, that's why I joke about Chopin. But not just that. I like piano music or guitar music. You know, hey, I even have all of Kenny G's soundtracks. So I think
Nice.
I made a joke about that in Jordan's episode or something. But and I actually got to meet Kenny G, so I got a photo with him. But
Nice. What's your favorite soundtrack?
I don't know. Ooh, that's a tough one. I have a lot of soundtracks. My first 3 CDs were soundtracks, and I'll tell you them just because they're kind of funny.
Yeah.
Cocktail with Tom Cruise, Batman,
Nice.
and Caddyshack.
Okay.
The
That is
original
all
Batman.
over the place.
It is all over the place. I know, but for some reason, all 3 of those. One had Prince. You can't go wrong there. Cocktail had Beach Boys. It just had a lot of really. I mean, Kokomo. How popular was that song?
I don't know. I wasn't alive then. Ageism, baby.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things I put on our merch list that we should have on merch. We're not ageist on the show.
Ages.
Oh, yeah, we're not ageist on the show, and it should just be
Our
old
shirt just says,
graphics
not
of all
an ageist.
old
I'm just gonna
faces.
stop talking because everything I'm talking about is going right over your heads. Apparently, I don't even know if you've seen the movie Cocktail.
No, but I
I
haven't
have
seen
not
any
seen the
movie
movie
that's made
Cocktail,
before
but
1990.
I've seen the other 2 movies,
Okay.
so I'm at least a little bit closer. I'm 4 years older than KJ, so I'm closer to you.
I
than-
was very sheltered.
Actually, that's maybe not be true. I don't know.
I'm just gonna stop talking.
That's interesting. I like
Yeah,
soundtracks too, though. I definitely get the appeal. I think it's a mix of songs, but then stuff from the movie and I like movies too. So when I listen to a soundtrack, it's
do you?
because the movie was so good. So like one of my
guys, I'm in
favorite
a mood.
soundtracks is the Life Aquatic soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Such a good one because
That
Mark
is right.
Mothersbaugh made there's a song on there that's so hilarious because the scene is so hilarious and it always takes me back to that when I listen. And it's great driving music.
Yeah. Okay. So I did think of another one. Maybe some of our listeners have heard it because it was Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Oh, okay.
I really like
The
that
ESPN
soundtrack.
documentary that just came out recently?
Not Dragon.
I don't remember what that one was called.
Bruce Lee story. I don't know. It's a good soundtrack. And here's another thing. So whenever I'm like sometimes walking around, you'll hear music playing in the background. If it's a soundtrack, a lot of the times I can actually tell you what movie it was in. For some odd reason. I remember.
That's a
the
new
music.
segment for the show.
Yeah.
What movie is
What
this?
movie was this song in? For some reason, I can remember that.
We could do it though. That's
Can't
a
remember
good
who
audio
sang it,
medium.
apparently.
That's true. Yeah, that
This
would
is
be
not
fun.
part of the show. What are we doing?
That
What
would
am
be
I
a fun
doing?
game.
This is a complete.
We're just back in friendship
non-sequitur.
mode. It's fine.
I love it.
Okay, so there are a couple of musical moments, and I don't think that story is very good. I'm going to cut it. So one of the
I like that. Leave
I don't
that in,
know.
though.
I mean, I have lots of musical moments. I think it's so like whether it's instrumental or lyric based, there is something really wonderfully transcendent about music. Specifically, like I can remember anytime I listen to Beethoven's his piano sonata, Pathétique Movement 2. That one always just takes me to a specific headspace, and I love it, and it is gorgeous. And John Mayer's In Repair takes me to a similar headspace. Like there's something about those two pieces. They sound very different, obviously, but I think that there's like this sense of, I mean, literally to quote John Mayer, I'm in repair, right? I'm not together, but I'm getting there. That I think both of those songs really capture. And I think for a long time, that's how I felt. And in some ways still feel, although I feel more like I'm put together now. I just get to augment what exists, you know? But for a long time, I felt like I was just kind of always in repair. Even though nothing was outwardly wrong with me, I was like, this is how I feel. Maybe it was just because I was an angsty teenager and my hormones were raging and I was like, everything sucks. But yeah, that's just, so yeah, those are some, like, I can specifically remember driving in high school at night and listening to In Repair and was like, this is exactly how I feel. This captures all of the feels right in there. And then in college, when I was exposed to Beethoven, I was like, yep, this same song, same place. So yeah.
So KJ, with your most recent cover that you sang, how did you decide on that song? That being a Korean song, indie song,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
How, of all the indie songs and of all the Korean songs, how did you decide on that one?
Well, half decided on it because I said no to a different song. And I was like, I started working on it because I understood some of the chorus lines, but then there was like a rap in there, and I was like, I'm not ready for this. So yeah, so I listened to the Dalcom Cafe playlist on Spotify, and so it was just like a bunch of K-indie songs. And I was like, okay, yeah, these all groove the way. I actually really regret my decision to start with It's Raining because it was really difficult. I would just stand to my microphone and do take after take after take to get the Korean down. So strong regrets. But
I thought it sounded great. So
I think the end product was good, and that's one where like the music came really easy, but the lyrics are really difficult. This next cover, the lyrics are really easy because it's a K-pop song, but the music and the production is really difficult. So it's like a fun flip flop where I get to stretch. And then my March song, I think I'm going to go back to a more challenging Korean like lyrical thing. It's from the K-drama that I'm watching right now. So it's like, well, I know the music, and like I think it'll be fun to do. So yeah, that's how I landed on it. But I said like my familiarity with like speaking in the language and singing in the language improved. So I feel like I'm able to do that, read it faster and do that kind of stuff, even though I still don't know what I'm saying.
you said something about the Spotify indie channel. What was that? Dalcom? What?
Yeah, it's Dalcom Cafe, Dalkom Cafe. There's also a playlist called Kimbops, which is like the most amazing play on words.
Kimbops.
I'm building a workout playlist of like just K-pop songs that are absolute bangers, and I wrote out workout in like Hangul, so it's Konglish basically. Yeah, so
cool.
Anyways,
yeah, I'm not too familiar with the any Korean music on Spotify other than I jokingly say the side channel, but or just the main players, Blackpink and BTS and stuff. But as far as anything like indie or other types of music, I didn't even know. I don't think I've really even searched what's on there. So Dalcom Cafe, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, be my friend
and
on
if anyone,
Spotify, and then you can find them.
Yeah, if anyone else is listening that knows of some good, indie Korean artists,
Patrick's playlist is just Arirang 18 times.
Is it only 18?
All the different
I haven't put any
versions.
more on for a while. I told people I made it open to share so people could edit it.
Yeah. My cover playlist is open, so people are like, "Yo, I like this song. You should cover it." But like, maybe I'll think about it. I'd love some submissions there.
So who should we be listening to that you really like that is not Blackpink or BTS or any other people? People that I and Nathan have not heard of, or anyone who's potentially listening.
So hold on, let me pull it up. The song of the dude who I covered is Vincent Blue, and I like that song, so I assume the rest of his stuff is good. Sam Kim is a name who I think he's like rising to prominence, but he's not the K-pop production, but he's probably pretty popular. But I like his stuff, and I've heard a couple of things where he collabs on a bunch of different projects. So yeah, Sam Kim is good. Vincent Blue is good. Cheese, spelt with a Z.
Okay, I love it. I was gonna ask, is that a Z? Is that a Z I heard?
It is. It is a Z that you heard. So yeah,
I like
those
it.
are some artists that I'm gonna tentatively recommend. Don't cancel me if you don't like them.
If you do like them, please let us
Cancel
know
me.
in the comments. Then uncancel KJ.
No, cancel me if you like them. Don't cancel me if you don't.
Oh, okay. This for discussion.
So, anyways,
keep
go
it
check those people out after you finish this episode of the podcast. Speaking of finishing this episode of the podcast, we have an interview with Jordan VanHemert coming up.
Part 1.
This is
Part
Part
1.
1. Part 2 will be dropping next month. Actually, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's going to drop on the 10th, exactly 30 days later.
Okay.
Than when this episode comes out.
Perfect. So, Jordan VanHemert, we had a great interview with him. He has a single coming out in 2 days when when this episode drops. So we're very excited for that. So excited to be supporting and a Korean adoptee who is also a baller musician. So here is our interview
Who
with
lives
him.
in the same town too as my relatives, which is crazy.
Oh, really?
In Michigan.
Did we talk about that? We probably talked
on
about
the
think
that.
we
episode we
talked
talked
about
about that.
Yeah.
In
All right,
Holland.
we'll
I was
get
like,
into
wow.
it. You're about to hear it. Here's our episode, Part 1 with Jordan
good.
VanHemert.
Part 1.
Hey, everybody. Before we get into the interview, I wanted to take a second and tell you about the Hello Korea box that was featured in episode 20. It was so fantastic. We are so grateful to Juliet and Hello Korea box for giving us a box. And
Would you like to say box again?
yep, Hello Korea box is a really fantastic box of goodies. We got K Beauty, we got K Lifestyle, we got K Snacks. Nathan, Patrick, what were your favorite parts?
My favorite part was the snacks. I really liked the socks. I've worn them many times. And I also like K stationery because I didn't know that Koreans had their own stationery. So I like
My wife
writing on
told
it.
me that when I was wearing the socks, it was the most fun socks I own. So
All right.
yes,
Sounds like you need to spice up your sock game, bro.
apparently so. And this box is the way to start.
I personally love the pens the most. I use them on the daily. They are amazing. But yeah, like everything in that box was really, really cool.
There was 2 packages of ramen too.
Oh, yeah.
This
Shoot,
one.
I gotta
Oh, I
make that.
forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Anyways, look, if you were like, man, this stuff is awesome and I want to get my own box, you can use Janchi 15 to get 15% off of your purchase at hellokoreabox.com.
If you want a little Korean culture in your life, at your home, make sure you go to hellokoreabox.com right now. Use code Janchi15 at checkout to save 15%.
On with the show.
We are here with Jordan VanHemert today. Jordan, thank you for joining us here on the Janchi Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. For our listeners, and just so we can get to know you a little bit better, I was wondering if you could kick us off by talking a little bit about your adoption story and growing up wherever you grew up at.
Sure, yeah. So I was adopted when I was 8 months old from Cheongju, South Korea. And I actually was adopted into a small town not very far away from where I live right now, which is really ironic, called Zeeland, Michigan. And interestingly enough, I had some very mixed but also very strong feelings about growing up there. And when I was 18 years old, I left and promised myself that I would not go back ever, live here again. And now I'm living here a stone's throw away in Holland. So life is really funny that way, I think. And it's full of just wonderful coincidences and also other things. But yeah, I grew up in a family there were 6 of us. And I have 3 other siblings, 2 of whom are also adoptees, but they are both white. And so they pass as the children of my parents. So
Yeah.
It was really interesting because it when you look at my family, it's like, oh, you're the only adopted one.
Right.
And it's like, actually. So yeah, it's really interesting. And for me growing up, it was a challenge. As I'm sure, from hearing your stories and from hearing, how most adoptees grew up, transracial adoptees, we tend to, I guess, grow up in predominantly white communities. And
That size said everything.
Yeah.
yeah.
That
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
A sigh worth 1,000 and a half words. So I, growing up and having those experiences, I was often, like many people, the only Asian in my class. And except for, my closest friends were the sons of immigrants, and we were all the only people of color in the classroom. And we're still close today, actually, where with that experience of growing up in such an othering environment, an environment that minoritized all of us. With that really brought us together and so close that we're still close. And as a matter of fact, the photo for my album art and the album art concept is, by one of those people who I mentioned.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So very close and very dear friends. But we grew up, and it was very interesting because, you know, there were the typical jokes and the typical things that kids say, getting in trouble for things that other kids don't necessarily get in trouble for, like having that laser vision on you at all times. It is a very, I'll just say it's traumatizing. But I didn't know that it was traumatizing. Like I had been like, it's like when you start, I think there's when you cook something, I don't remember what it is, but you start it in really cold water and then you gradually boil it. And
is that a frog or a lobster?
It might be a frog.
I think it's a
or
frog.
Lobster. Yeah. I think it might be a frog. So, you know, you start it, you know, off really cold and then you boil it and then the frog dies. And it's like, wait, what's happening to me? Right. I really didn't know necessarily that my upbringing was that traumatizing. But then I look back on it and hindsight is 2020. Yeah. And that phrase is so like played out and cliched, but it's so true because here I was just not aware of the things that were happening to me. I then kind of went off to college, and ironically, what seemed like a less diverse outside of the university town. And that was really interesting because that was one of the most racist places I've ever been. And so going into that environment, it really hit me. And that was kind of when I started my journey to my own awareness of who it is exactly that I was / am. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell. It is in some ways kind of standard, I think. Right. But, you know, it is uniquely my own, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And I think when you say standard, there are beats that are similar, but you're right. It is uniquely your own story. And that was kind of what I was going to ask to follow up when you said, you know, you left Zealand, your hometown. You're like, I'm not going to come back here. And then you just touched on going to an even worse place, essentially. At the start of that journey, were you first actualizing yourself or realizing as an Asian American or as an adoptee? Or was there a distinction between, you know, how you came into the identities of either?
Yeah, so I had always been hyper aware of the fact that I'm an adoptee. Like I've always been very aware of that. But it's been in a way that is kind of is like, oh, you're an adoptee. That means you're assimilated. That means you're American. But the problem was growing up, I was painfully aware from the time I was like 4 or 5 years old, like most of us, that there was something different. When I was in kindergarten doing the standard coloring thing, and another student said, hey, pass me the skin color. So I passed him the color that was closest to my skin. And he threw it back at me and said, that's not the skin color. And then he reached over and grabbed like a white or a peach-ish kind of colored pencil. And I remember being so shocked, being like, wait, what just happened? Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was right. I think like looking down at my hands, like, okay, I think this was the right color. So, you know, it was a very, like I said, it was a very othering thing. And there are so many other instances of that as I was growing up. And so I was always aware, though, that I was an adoptee. But my realization of identifying as Asian American, as Korean American particularly, was something that took me a little bit longer because culturally I knew that I didn't speak Korean. I didn't read or write Hangul. This was something really different. So I would say that when I was in college was a time when I was like self-actualizing toward my identity as an Asian American, as that hyphenate kind of intersectional person.
Yeah, and in those moments in college, especially being in a place that was not as diverse, and were, I'm sure, lots of negative experiences that you probably went through personally. What were some of those first realizations that you were having at that time, if you can recall? Or like, what was that first kind of moment where you're like, okay, I think I am this, and I want to explore this further?
Mainly, I'm not like a really outwardly vocal or extroverted person, just by nature. And so when I really started to realize that I am Korean American, was when I would walk into groups of people, predominantly large groups of white people, and I wouldn't say anything initially, and like people would start making assumptions about me. They would start speaking really loudly, kind of getting all up in my face. They identified me for myself. And that was when I started saying, well, if you guys are going to see me this way anyway, then I might as well start getting to know who I am and what it means to me to be Korean American.
I think it's really interesting the way I think that, because I think in that situation for a lot of people, you can either go the route you did and choose to engage, or you can go in the opposite direction, and it can be a really negative experience to take out of that. What did you, in those moments where you're like, okay, you guys are labeling me, I guess I'm gonna claim it for myself. What was like that feeling? Did you feel like it could have, like, at any moment teetered on into a different direction, or did you feel pretty affirmed and confident as you made that move to explore that part?
I have been, I would say it was a little bit more tenuous at the beginning. College is, and this is why I love teaching, and I love teaching at the college level. It's a time of self-discovery. And a lot of, my students are in the same place, or a similar place at least, that I was, in that we are looking for an identity, looking for someone, something to be. And up until that point, I barely saw Asian people like anywhere. And I remember like the kinds of media that I gravitated toward. My favorite show growing up was Family Matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because like the main character portrayed by Reginald VelJohnson, Carl Winslow, was a person of color who was like a man of integrity and this person fighting for doing the right thing. And he was, as weird as it sounded, he was one of the only people of color that I saw in the media. And the first person I ever heard that was Asian play saxophone, Kenneth Che, I will never forget like getting his CD at the suggestion of a teacher. And my teacher probably didn't even know that he did this for me. But I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, this guy is he looks more similar to me than, any of these other artists, any of these other French dudes. Because there's a long history of playing saxophone in France. But anyway, seeing when I saw Kenneth, Dr. Che, it was very, very transformative for me, because I thought, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is someone that I can be. And so getting back to your question, Patrick, having those kind of things in my mind, but I still didn't really know in college who I was or who I wanted to be. And so I guess it was tenuous, but I thought if I was going to take the oppressive side of this, like if people were going to make comments about my driving, and if they were going to make assumptions, I had a math teacher, math professor, who was commenting on my handwriting, which is atrocious in its own right. And on my test, and I was like, oh, was this okay? Were you able to read, all of the work that I wrote down? And she said, well, yeah, it was surprisingly not too bad. And with like most Asian languages, they're very jagged like that. They're very and I was, just like you write. And I was like,
Have you seen my last name though?
yeah. Well, and I was like, my handwriting can be bad just because it's bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, with those, if I was going to experience those things, I made the decision to try to also embrace the parts of myself that I do believe are, Korean and Korean American. And that became like really important to me as I journeyed through, higher ed and now as a professor.
That's great. I love the fact that you went into it like that. I think that there's a lot of stereotypes for Asians, and especially, maybe Korean adoptee Asians that, again, we run into where we think, oh, you should know this, or you should know that, or you should write like this, or sound like this, or do these types of things. You should drive this, and you just went for it. I think I kind of did the same thing, and like I started playing table tennis, and I was like, well, I'm going to fall into this. I'm going to go with it. And so I became like a competitive table tennis player. I drove like an Acura Integra. So yeah, sure. I'm driving, some Asian Japanese cars and put a big subwoofer in the trunk. Sure. I don't care.
There you go. Some NOS in the tank. Live my life 1/4 mile at a time.
Yeah. So I think I didn't mind it at one point, except because it was my decision to do it, not somebody else's prejudgment or somebody else's a suggestion you should do this or things like that. I was like, no, this is something I actually like and something I want to do. And even with music, like, there could be all kinds of stereotypes. I played the piano, as well. So, again, a stereotype, but hey, there's a lot of people that play piano.
Right. Absolutely.
And I really appreciate you just sharing very openly your experiences and, the feelings and things that you went through. And I know we're having you on here and we're going to talk about your project and your music, but your story has just been very interesting. And now I can want to keep asking follow-up questions on that a little bit.
Well, and the music comes from the story. The
exactly.
music comes, as a reflection of who I am. So ask away.
No, absolutely.
Pretty much an open book.
Absolutely. And this might come out in this, but what were the first things that you engaged in as you took those steps? You talked about, what you started to embrace in the Korean American side of you, and I'm assuming either cultural or whatever the case is. I know obviously music. What were those first things that you first engaged with and took in, and what stuck with you the most as you've moved along in this journey?
So the first thing actually was definitely food. When I was in my undergraduate career, the place where I went to college, they got their first Korean restaurant. And I was really excited because before I had, for class projects and such, I had made kimchi, and it had always been this like, this thing that was held against me. Like, people walked by and they smelled my locker and they were like, what is that? That smells awful. Like, why would you ever, like, did somebody, like, what is somebody playing a joke on you? Why does it smell so terrible? And I was like, that's weird. I kind of enjoy it. I think it smells and tastes good. And of course, me coming up making kimchi for a class project, it was not overly, scientific. But there were times when I was actually in high school, going back to this, I ate kimchi growing up whenever I could, because I liked it. And I still do. I really like how it tastes. I think it's really crisp and refreshing.
We like kimchi here, so we feel you.
Yeah.
We feel you on that.
I love that. So, and in high school, there were, people were talking about in my class, oh yeah, favorite foods, and people are talking about like, all of these different things. And I was like, well, I really like kimchi. And my teacher asked, I still remember this, like, what is that? And I was like, it is and because, I couldn't really explain it
right.
To an adult. I was like, it's like pickled cabbage, I guess. And he was like, who eats pickled cabbage? Like, who would eat that? And somebody suggested something else that I found disgusting, and I don't remember what this is. But his retort to my face, because apparently I made a face, he said, "Well, it's better than pickled cabbage." And I was like,
Dang.
wow, dude, that's like really offensive. And it's hilarious because now like gochujang and like kimchi are all like really in vogue from a culinary standpoint. Like people are like, oh yeah, like let's throw kimchi on this burger, or like don't you have like a gochujang wing sauce or something like that? So it's hilarious because it like all of these things that that I think we were made fun of for liking as kids, now suddenly are like, wait, you accept this now?
Yeah.
But you accept it when it's coming from like a white lens, like
Right.
through a okay, we can have the kimchi burger, but you don't want kimchi jjigae.
Right.
I get that. Okay, so going back to the question, I first started like engaging with kind of the food side of things, and I loved the food so much that I just started trying to make stuff. And as weird as this sounds, like it, and learning to make different dishes from my Korean friends, and those things really helped me feel close to who I was from a cultural standpoint. And I mean, I didn't go to like Korean school or anything like that, but that, I mean, it was a way that and it still is a way that I really like to own my culture. Music, ironically, music didn't come along until more recently, but I've always loved Korean folk music and those sorts of influences in music. So long answer to your question, TLDR, well, whatever the listening equivalent of that is, food first, then through music.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we enjoy here on the show is just engaging in a food item. And we're eventually going to hopefully do more like actual like entree style dishes and stuff like that. I don't know when we're going to make that crop up, but
Once we figure out how to actually produce that content.
Yeah, I was gonna say the fact that you know how to make kimchi already is much better than all three of us, because none of us have ever made it before. So we will be completely new.
I think just like engaging on that level, like you said, making the food, and I hadn't really kind of thought about it this way in terms of making it, but just the act of making brings you closer, can give you that feeling of being closer to the culture. And I think food, as is music, those are the two things really that are that can be universal and defy the language barriers that exist between different cultures and countries. Food and music can do that, and obviously those are things that you're involved in and really enjoy. And so how did you play the saxophone? And
I do.
For our listeners that didn't know or don't know, and myself included, when did you pick up the sax, and what was your motivation there? Were you always been a jazz fan, or what's that look
Kenny
like?
G.
Great question. Great question. So when I was very young, my grandfather died, and and my family inherited his CD collection. And you've got to keep in mind that this is the like early to mid 90s. So CDs are kind of like, they're the cool thing to have. Because before that I had cassette tapes, and listened to those. But then all of a sudden, like my family was seemingly blessed with a wealth of CDs. So this was really cool. And I really liked listening to music. I enjoyed hearing my brother and sister practice the piano. And so I just sat down in the living room of my parents' house where the stereo was, and I just listened to each CD one by one. And the one that stopped me in my tracks was The Essential Charlie Parker. And I will never forget sitting in my parents' living room and listening to that record, because I played it over and over and over again. And then I had to get my own CD player and
headphones.
play it over and over and over again. And something that I noticed is on this record cover, and I keep saying record as like a slang word for recording, just, you know,
Right.
with it. But I noticed that with this album, Charlie Parker, again, as an African American, it was the closest thing that was to somebody like me that I had seen up until that point. And I just kept listening and listening. The sound of the saxophone was to me very, like I fixated on it. I couldn't get it out of my head. And so that really made me want to play saxophone. And also my older brother played saxophone, and I wanted to do everything that he did because it was so cool. And I grew up listening to him practice. So I had to play saxophone when I, you know, got started. And it's really interesting because I don't know that I was originally thinking of being a professional musician, but it was at one of those career days in like middle school where they're like, you guys should really start getting your lives together. And
Middle school, the time when all of us get our lives together.
yeah, that's right, exactly.
And never change.
That's right. So at one of those like career days, you know, we were going around the room and we were asked what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I had no idea. I was like, I don't even know. Well, you know what? I really like saxophone, so maybe it would be cool to be a professional musician. And that seed was planted, but did not really get watered or bear fruit. You know, I just knew that I loved playing the saxophone, but I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know you could do that.
Right.
I had no idea that this was a viable career option. So that's kind of a little bit of how I, you know, got into playing saxophone. But yeah, I always, to answer part of your question, Patrick, I always gravitated toward jazz because that was where I saw the highest quantity of musicians who looked similar to me. And I don't know if you guys found this also growing up, but if you couldn't find like an Asian or particularly a Korean role model, looking to African Americans and the African American community for people of color to look up to, that's just something that up until now I thought was really weird about the way I grew up. But I have heard since that other people, other adoptees particularly, did that as well.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way. I always gravitated toward martial arts films. I always enjoyed watching, watching anything that, like, you know, Jackie Chan or you know, anything like that was my media source, I guess, as far as stuff online, or stuff in the media.
Yeah, I don't think I had a strong enough sense of race to lean one way or the other. I mean, most of the people, I mean, like John Mayer is hands down my favorite guitar player. And so most of my approach to guitar is modeled after his approach, but like,
That's cool.
I couldn't name any really, I mean, I can name maybe a few like artists, but not like key, like you think of them as a guitar player first, like people of color. I think it's time for food, right?
Yes, it is time for food. The project, the album is I Am Not a Virus. The guest is Jordan VanHemert. We will be right back after this with a little bit of food.
We are back here with Jordan VanHemert, and we are trying our food portion today. We have a little package of looks like chocolate-coated biscuits. So
Mine's empty.
we are eating.
It was part of Jerry's mystery box.
mystery.
But,
It's not a mystery anymore.
They
It's not a mystery.
they weren't labeled, so we're just like the guest is like, here's what I got, and we're like, all right, well, I guess we'll try to figure out based on the shapes.
So
So yeah, Kancho.
Lotte, Kancho,
And-
Choco Biscuit.
Jordan let us know that he had a little bit of trouble locating the item that Jerry had asked him to try and find. So, Jordan, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers what you have brought to the table today?
I have Hello Panda, and Hello Panda is a similar biscuit, but I just could not find Kancho.
It looks
and
very
the-
similar.
Yeah,
for
and the
sure.
reaction to calling around and asking for Kancho to like Korean grocery stores was really hilarious, because as you guys probably know, the word doesn't have a meaning in Korean. So
I appreciate
would
the
you
effort
like,
of calling
Kancho?
around looking for this item. That's
Yeah.
well,
especially on short
I did
notice.
one blind. I did one blind and was like, I'm not wasting this transit time again. Like,
I appreciate it.
This packaging is pretty adorable.
It is
Yeah.
pretty cute.
I don't know. I just think with the meaning, like Kancho is like a little sinister to me.
Why? I have no idea what it could possibly mean.
Oh, so
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry.
No,
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can mention this on air, but
We say a lot of things on air.
oh, okay, all right. Then I feel better about this. So, are you guys familiar with Tongchim?
No.
It sounds
does
familiar, but I
sound
don't know
familiar.
why it sounds familiar.
So it's this like Korean game, and so Kancho is the Japanese equivalent, but it's this Korean game where you put your hands together, kind of like a gun, and then go and poke somebody's. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, KJ.
That's why I know what
Nice.
that is.
Oh yeah, because they do that on Kim's Convenience.
Oh, they sure do. Yeah, that's
They
right.
do. I forgot about that. That is what they do.
Yeah,
Tong
so
chim, that's what they call it.
yeah. So the like I can't think of anything other than that.
That is hilarious.
That's
Well,
amazing.
We learn something new every day.
That is
That
all
has
right.
me thinking about these in a completely different
I
light.
know,
now.
right?
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I'm actually noticing the way that my package opens too.
Yeah.
Notice it almost looks like a dryer sheets.
Oh, I did. I wasn't thinking that, but you're right.
You
That's
weren't thinking
really
dryer
funny.
sheets? I was thinking dryer sheets, but I like it because you can quickly just take out the box and
It's
there you
super
go.
easy to open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You
freaking
have
easy.
more cute characters.
I always
Oh, this
appreciate
is- I
the
like this.
interior packaging too, like
Yeah.
the second layer.
Yeah,
I like
very
that blue.
chocolatey
I like the-
smelling.
Yeah.
I like
All
that.
right.
And I
Jordan-
have had Hello Panda, so I
Oh.
can do a pretty good
I
was gonna ask
comparison.
Jordan,
I
have
bet.
you
Was there
had
any
that
interior
before.
design
Yeah.
on the Hello Panda?
No, not really. Just the like AG.
Oh yeah,
kinda-
yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, like a little red
All right.
pepper.
Have you had those before? The jalapeno cookies?
I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
I like it. Go with
I'm
what you know.
confused about the design on these. They look like little dice.
Like little dike. Whoa.
Looks like a little square on it.
Mine are.
And it's like I got like a little thing that's got 2 on it, and then I have one that's got 1.
I have
but
one that
don't
has
know, it's like
5 on it.
5, like
Yeah, I
it's
have a
dice,
two.
like it's like a dice
Yeah, I think I
face.
pulled a 6.
See, there you go.
Oh,
All right.
Huh.
For your next D&D game.
These are nice.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This is
Much better than squid balls.
Oh, this one's a hand. I got a hand on this one.
nice.
Yeah. See, that's the
Gotta hide your
nod
tongue.
to-
That's the.
Nope.
Oh god.
That is hilarious. I want to go watch
This
that
is
episode now.
delicious.
Man, I could eat this whole box real quick.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't have a lot else to say. It's a delicious biscuit with
chocolate in it.
And
Yeah. There's not
our
much you
first
can say.
Chocolate-filled biscuit or item on the show.
one pack
Oh.
is at 200 calories. This feels like a Valentine's Day thing. Although
Yeah.
I saw that like I think Koreans have like a bunch of different holidays like every month, and they're all related to relationships. So
Oh,
maybe
really?
it's not just Valentine's Day. Yeah, there's
don't
like
know.
there's like a singles
hard.
day, and then like there's like a white day and a black day and a green day, and they all mean like different like
Okay.
relationship status things. I don't know. So, anyways, It's a really cute gift. I'm sure
Yeah.
they're all the rage in like high schools and things.
I can't let my kids find these; they'll eat them all.
Yeah. Jordan, tell me about the Hello Pandas.
The Hello Pandas are really good. But, you guys made me jealous. I almost wish I was around for Squid Balls.
Oh man, you.
Yeah, they were okay.
It's a real
They were
choice.
okay.
Yeah,
Peanut?
I'll let you know what the Korean is, so you can call around and see if they're available at your store. You can
There
read
you
along
go.
with the episode.
Yeah, these are good. I mean, it's just like a little biscuit. As
Oh
you
yeah,
can see,
very similar
Yeah.
looking to this.
filled with chocolate, very similar looking to yours. Tasty. Yeah, not a lot to misinterpret.
Yeah.
Very, very.
I want to
true.
know why there's dice faces on these, though. That's my one question.
I feel like there's probably
Google that.
some kind of like game that you could play.
roll
that's like
them all
meant to.
out or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That feels like a weird marketing thing that exists.
This is just a
Probably.
repurposed dryer package. Dryer sequence. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, but these are pretty good. All right,
All right.
Jordan. I know you're not having these, but you're having the Hello Pandas.
I am.
What do you rate those as far as
How many
like, a
pandas do you
scale?
give it
Out of
out of
five.
5?
Oh
Out of
man,
five.
I would give it 4 out of 5 pandas.
4 out of 5.
It's a yummy little snack. And typically I'm into a lot more savory things.
Same.
But these are they're still very good. So
Yeah.
4 out of 5 pandas.
All right, 4 out of 5.
How about you guys? What do you think about like Kancho?
That's all I would think of. All right, well, I'll go. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. The only reason it's bumped 1 star or 1 Kancho is because there wasn't enough. I'm already done.
Wow,
I ate all these.
You're already
that's
done.
impressive.
Yeah. Oh! There was dust in here. There was Kancho dust in here. Do not tip it over. It will spill on you. Dang it.
I'm doing my best to
4
say
out of
some for
5.
Sarah after
4
the
out of 5.
recording. All right.
I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5. That's how much I like
Wow,
it.
5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Wait, 4 out of 5 what? And 5 out of 5 what?
Conchos.
Oh, 4 out of 5 conchos?
Yeah.
All right, Nathan, 5 out of 5 what?
5 out of 5 high five dice looking things.
All right.
I don't know.
Guys,
5 out of 5 high fives. I like it.
Yep.
I'm also going to give mine 5 out of 5 repurposed dryer sheet boxes. This is delicious. It's super
Yeah.
cute and wonderful. And would absolutely eat the whole thing. And like Jordan, I'm more of a savory person,
Yeah.
Like listeners of our show will know,
Right,
I
they
like
do know
those
that.
savory things. Yep.
It is canon in
But,
our show that KJ likes
This
savory.
is delicious and perfect and wonderful. So thank you, Lotte.
Yeah,
feeling
thanks,
that,
Lotte.
feeling that love.
Good job.
Feeling that love.
I'm just gonna go on record and say that Kancho is better than Hello Panda. Having never had it,
haven't had
I'm just
Hello
gonna
Panda,
project
so-
that. Yeah,
I have
but
had
I'm just
Hello
gonna
Panda.
claim that.
So my comparison would be that this has more chocolate in it than the Hello Panda does.
That makes it better.
I feel like it's a little bit bigger, rounder, whereas the Hello Panda is kind of more of like I wouldn't call it a rectangle, but it's
Yeah, it's a little kind of
it's a
rectangle.
little thinner, I think.
Yeah.
So this one feels like it's got more chocolate in it.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
I think I like this one better. But
Well, Jerry, if you're listening,
is-
send Jordan some Concho so he can try it out since he couldn't find it.
compare.
But he did try.
Yeah.
He did try.
But take that, Hello Panda. Jordan, where can people find you on the internet?
On the internet, people can find me on Facebook and Instagram at JVanHeMusic, JVANHE Music. And also on YouTube, please copy and paste that link because it is a random string of letters and numbers. Because I don't have enough subscribers yet to have a channel name in my link. So if you're so inclined, it would be cool to have hit that 100 subscribers.
Yeah, smash that
Yes,
subscribe
yes.
button.
Hit that 100
Hit that
for
bell.
Also hit it on ours as well, please.
Also on ours, please. Yeah.
I'm a subscriber to the Janchi Show.
Oh, thank
I'm a
you.
Subscriber.
Well, we got to subscribe
We got
to you.
one.
We're close.
We're
So
at
we can give you
83.
three.
Yeah, I know. We're like
Or 82. I
like
don't know.
15
Oh my
away.
gosh, so close.
So
Yeah.
close.
All right.
But-
You can find me at Patrick in the World on Instagram, at Patrick Armstrong everywhere else.
You can find me at No Walk Photo and all over Facebook.
My joke failed. I'm going to cut it.
Yeah, that was a fail on that one.
All right.
Look, I'm not perfect. You can find me at KJ Relke on all the places on the internet. You can find us at the Janchi Show on all the places on the internet, or send us an email to janchyshow@justLikeMedia.com. And if you would be so kind and please leave us a rating/review. It really helps us, top those iTunes charts and get our show out into the world for other CADs who are searching for CAD created content, because we need more of it. So please do that. It would be really, really fantastic.